out. We're rolling. We're good to go. So we're here with Brandon Havrilla from Redmax Events and Redmax Products. Right?
Yeah.
So you have two different companies under like the same umbrella.
Correct.
And you're doing a lot of great stuff here on Long Island. We've worked together probably 5-10 times at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known you for quite a while. But give us just a quick overview of what Redmax is, the two different things that you're doing, and who you are.
Sure. So I started Redmax in 2016 is when I actually started the company. I was just a DJ at the time. Just did, I wasn't even DJing, to be honest. I was pressing play on music, and that was it. Then started to grow a little bit. It was a hobby. It was a weekend thing. I bought a photo booth. I was like, I could rent this out and make some extra money while I show up and DJ. This is, a win-win. Started renting that out, got a taste of what that was like, and that there was more in the industry, because then it was like, all right, now I could do a hedge wall as the backdrop for the photo booth and so on. And that's kind of what sparked this like never-ending, haven't decided yet if it was an uphill or downhill slope that I'm going on. But that's kind of what sparked the journey to like build and make this a full-time thing, because at the time it was just like, all right, I'm gonna go into music. I think in 2016 I still had that rock star dream of just playing drums and concerts and stuff, and then I kind of shifted and really put a lot of focus in college into the business and growing it to be more of a production and rental company. I got a taste of like how we met, of the production side from like an AV standpoint of doing audio and visual rentals. And I wanted to take it a different direction and go more like furniture and decor. So started doing that, started really building up traction with that side of the company. And then the pandemic hits, and it's like, you can't have events now. You can't have, we're renting out dance floors, which requires dancing and a party. And the government is now telling you cannot dance. So our dance floor sits now and collects dust. So we kind of re-engineered very quickly. I had a table saw and a miter saw and all those tools. And I was always like a handy kid being around my dad. So we kind of instantly pivoted to making sneeze guards and germ barriers for businesses. And so we built a handful of them as like prototypes. We started, putting them out there, sending Instagram messages, and they really took off in the city in like the trading desk industry, because these people have all different trading desks and they wanted germ barriers to bring their people back to the office, because that's not something they could do in their home with 10 TV monitors and whatnot. So, we would go in, measure, fully make these things custom to fit their furniture and build them in our shop and then go install them. And so that really took off and really like allowed us to buy more shop equipment and really like key in on building and fabrication. So then when sneeze guards started to die off, it was either getting to the point where everyone had them or it wasn't needed. So then we started looking into other avenues. All right, what can we do now? Because events aren't fully back yet. So we couldn't go back to normal. But at the same time, we wanted something where we could get into something else that would further where we were with the event side. So when events did come back, we were in a better place. And so what we decided to do was buy a large format printer. And so at the time it was social distancing floor markers, and it was, curbside pickup signs and stuff for restaurants. But as soon as events came back, we could now customize our dance floors, customize our furniture and all the rentals we send out. And luckily that's exactly how it panned out, because events came back and we focused heavily on corporate and brand activations, because now we have these machines that can customize and brand everything we're doing. So that's really the direction we've gone now in a quick nutshell of
you guys
where we are.
You're almost like an experiential marketing company, where like everything is, if you were to say, like, to describe you in 2 words, you're like an experience company. You try to elevate experiences to the next level.
Yeah, we focus on like bringing them to life, and that's like the one key element, like as we talk about kind of growing and navigating our businesses. That's the one thing we're looking for now that I think we're missing, is a very, very solid designer on our team that can design these experiences, because right now all these companies are coming to us with a pre-designed experience, and it works great. We bring it to life. We figure out, how is this going to stand up? How is this going to, be outside? How is this going to actually be built? But we want to be able to come up with those ideas and those designs in-house, and like you're saying, really bring a brand, to life through the experience side.
So jump into that a little bit more. So what are you doing right now with like people coming to you with experiences that they want? How are you taking that, and then how would it be different you brand or creating those experiences and having a designer in house?
So right now, like we just wrapped up a job for JCPenney. We were brought on by a production agency. There's a lot of production and design agencies where basically brands like that, the Fortune 500s and stuff, will reach out to them to give them a budget for an event and say, we have X amount of dollars on this event. You know, we want flowers, we want walls, we want merch, we want a bar, we want food kind of thing. But they don't want to figure that out and, you know, do all the legwork for it per se.
Meaning
so
the fabrication of all those things, or
and the logistics of getting them all there and timeline and design and color palette and everything. So this production agency will choose the color palette. They'll, you know, really design everything, and they'll work directly with, say, JCPenney to make sure that they're following brand guidelines and, you know, making everything the way they want it and kind of get the checks on the boxes. And then they'll go to all the different vendors. So they'll go to the florist and be like, hey, these are the colors we're working with. And then the florist will go pick out flowers and figure out a way to get those bouquets to stand up or get them to, you know, whatever. And they'll come to us and say, hey, this is a sketch we made in, you know, Microsoft Word or Photoshop or something of like kind of what we want the photo moment to look like. But then we have to figure out, okay, how is this thing going to stand up? I mean, this is a 2D sketch with, you know, how are we going to make this actually pop to? And we can make recommendations, we can alter it, but at the end of the day, we're the ones that are trying to actually figure out how to bring that to life and take it from paper to an actual unit or an actual experience. So what I'm trying to get to now is basically where our team can come up with that 2D as well directly for the client. And we can do certain things in-house. We can come up with some, but not to the extent that we want to become, like what you're saying, a real like experiential marketing company.
So does that bring you like a new level of clientele? It's less back and forth with like the middleman type of deal there?
Less back and forth with the middleman. It will also get us into, so like these Fortune 500s, the larger companies usually do outsource that like planning and stuff to an agency. The next level down, like maybe your Fortune thousands and stuff, they don't. They try and do everything in-house. They might have one person on salary to just plan their events and such. But they're not designers when they do that. They're just a head of marketing or something along those lines. And so they don't really know the design side of it. They know what their brand looks like. They know the colors. They know, you know, generally what they're trying to get across, but they need someone who can really tie in the brand and portray it to the guests in a fun, engaging, experiential way.
So the idea is having it less prescribed to you and more a conversation with that head of marketing,
right?
And you can create the vision for them,
right? Or getting an agency that might have one of those clients and get something dumped on them for this weekend, and they just physically cannot because of maybe the scale of their company or the rules they have to follow and the steps they have to follow. They might want to just pass it off to us basically, and they'll be the middleman and let us design it and create it, you know, for their clients.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is like you're kind of like an opportunist, right? When you were 16 DJing, you looked around, you said, how can I add something here that I can bring with me and make money to grow my business? 2020 comes, you now are making sneeze guards. That's an opportunity, another opportunity to grow. A lot of people during that time were saying, hey, I got to scale back. I can't do a lot. It seems like you took the opposite approach with Redmax, saying, how can I pivot and how can I work this to make it work for us, but also make it work for the clients that we work with. So I guess right now you're in a place where you need this designer. Where do you kind of stand? I mean, what's your team like now, and how can you maybe take on more of that designer role? Or maybe it's not your strength, but how do you see that as far as helping you grow right now, or the opportunity that you see with some of these larger companies you want to work with?
Yeah, so I know how to use SketchUp. I know how to use Illustrator to the basics. And I think if I really dove into it, I could learn them. It's just not where my time I feel is best spent.
Yeah.
There are people who, you know, are amazing at that stuff, and I'd rather put them in that position to have the fun and creative side of it. And I'll just run the business kind of thing and focus on the things that I'm good at, which is, like you said, the opportunist side of like looking for the next thing and looking for how can we actually make this work. So I think finding someone to fill those shoes is the right route. I'm big on a team. I've always been that way. any like literature, copy, anything we've had from day one in 2016 was always we, like the website and everything. And it was only me at that time. Like I was answering all the emails, I was answering all the phones, but everything was answered with we. Like, hey, we'll send a quote over. Like we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. We are. And so it was always that, because I always had this vision of it being a lot more than that and being more than me. And right now I couldn't do what I do without a team under me, without a team of people. So because of that, I've realized so much of the power of having people around me and people in their own, good elements that they're, good at. And so under me, I have an office staff, which is, phone calls, emails, all the day-to-day operational stuff. I also have a full-time content creator. So he's, paid weekly, 40 hours a week, just to basically follow me around with a camera, go on job sites, make content in our office, and just kind of capture everything and then keep it all organized and edit and whatnot. And then I also have a warehouse manager and a carpenter. And so we're able to facilitate mostly, everything on that end. And then as we get busier, as we have specific jobs, we'll bring in, additional people. But
you guys have like a pretty big freelance staff.
A lot of freelance that does weekends, truck drivers and installs and stuff. But in terms of like our Monday to Friday of printing stuff, prepping stuff for the weekends events, that's our main crew. But I'm so big on that team too, because for the same reason of like the pandemic hits and we have to pivot. So having people in all these different facets where we can instantly pivot to a new business, God forbid we had to, is so powerful to me. It means a lot to me. So like I've always said too, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I love the events industry, but I'm not tied to it. I mean, if I had to pick up and do something else tomorrow, I think I'd have fun with it and, I'd rock with it and make it happen. And I would get everyone on my team to pivot and we'd start making content on a new business. We'd start printing for the new business, sell off inventory we have and purchase new stuff. So that's just always kind of been my mindset.
So if you want to find this right person for this role that you want to fit, do you want them to be kind of part of that core team in the middle, or you want somebody from an outside perspective? Because in my personal business right now, I'm finding that going outside of my own domain of where I think the direction should be is helping me a lot more, because I get so single-minded on this is how it should look, this is how it should feel. But then when I bring in someone to look on the outside and say, okay, this is what maybe you should be doing, and then I go, oh crap, maybe that is a good perspective. But I don't know how that works in this case. But I don't know how you feel about that.
I think I would want someone on our team, someone in our office to bounce ideas around and whatnot, but we'd be looking for someone outside right now, someone to come and join our team kind of thing, if that makes sense. Not somebody who's already in our team to take that task and position over, but someone who's had some experience, maybe someone who's been in this industry already and designed experiential stuff and is just looking for kind of a fresh start or something new.
You're not really looking for a contractor.
Yeah, not a subcontractor.
Someone that, like,
we want someone
mold
that's
and work with
salary kind of thing, work with every day and get them to really understand our business.
That's cool. So what I want to do is go back to the beginning now.
Okay.
Because I think you've alluded to the fact that like you've always been this entrepreneurial minded guy and you've always had these different ideas and you've been very agile and mobile with what you've been able to do with your business. Where did that start?
It started from maybe not day one, but very, very early on, like lemonade stands. I always was shoveling snow. I was out mowing lawns. Like I was always just business. I mean, I think thinking back to even when I was a kid, I mean, I used to have like a set up toy restaurant with like one of those fake kitchens and like parents, siblings, like they would come down into that room and like I would be selling them on food and like serving them and whatever, even if there was no direct transaction. So I was just always around like business and just kind of hustling and doing things. So that just kind of carried on and it happened to take off with this particular industry. But I used to, in high school, before I could like drive and travel, I was focusing a lot on like landscaping. I loved like mowing lawns. I probably had like 10 in our neighborhood that like I did weekly all summer, and then I do their fall cleanups and whatnot. And so I really enjoyed that too. And I think for me, I just get so much enjoyment out of the process and the actual business of like setting up the invoices and the business plan, and then actually like letting it all play out and coming up to little issues and errors that I have to resolve. That's like the fun to me. So
Yeah, it's all. I mean, we met. We were both like kind of freelancing for other businesses, and I remember being introduced to you through Chuck.
right.
And I think we met at like a small event somewhere, and he was like, "This is Brandon," and you were like a kid, and we were all kids, but like I was probably 23,
Right.
and you were maybe 19,
Right.
and like you just knew what the fuck was going on. Like you walked in and it was like, oh, he's 19, but he's the boss. Like I'm gonna ask him what to do. And I remember Chuck talking about like, oh, how's your business going? How's this going? So you had already kind of started Redmax at that point, but it was still like kind of this like small, unformed or unfinished product at the time. Like I remember him being like, oh, he's got a lighting business.
Yeah.
And like was that how it started? Was it lighting? Was it DJing?
It was DJing.
Okay.
And then I got into some lighting, and I started like adding things here and there. But it's funny because me looking back at it now, I was always told like you got to stay in your lane, like stay in your lane, stay in your lane. And I'm like, okay, but what if my lane is 6 lanes wide? Like I'm not going to limit myself to one particular thing. Like just because that's what maybe everyone else is doing, or maybe that's what they teach in college. I don't know. But I'm like, I just had this like thing in my mind where I'm like, my lane could be bigger. I'm not going to limit myself to, what you're saying. So a lot of people were like, if you're going to DJ, DJ. If you're going to do lighting, do lighting. If you're going to do furniture, do furniture. And I'm like, but why not do all of them? I'm like, if we could send all out and our clients are happy and we can manage that, why wouldn't I, do that? And so, as I was growing and building the business, we got that like a lot. Like a lot of people are like, oh, now you're a print guy? Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm a print guy, but I still do furniture and I still do DJing too. And then we bought like mini golf and everything just now cohesively is going together even more. Like we're sending our mini golf course out that we bought during the pandemic. It was another thing to like give outdoor activities that were like social distant, and people can play. And I think we actually bought it for the Vanderbilt Museum initially, for an event there, and it goes out every weekend all summer. Like we have a full 18-hole mini golf course, and we're sending 3 holes to Boston for a trade show now, fully branded with the company's logo and stuff on it, and wrapping the putters and custom balls and everything. So like it's now more than ever starting to all like mesh together and come together of like how the printing and the furniture, like they need a bar in their booth and they need fabricated walls, and how everything is kind of meshing together. So I'm curious to see how the next few years pan out and see how people's, interpretation of us and the stay in your lane thing kind of plays out,
It's always interesting how people interpret you, right? So at that time when you were 19, 20 years old, that one person had interpreted your business as, all right, well, this is a lighting company. So, but that was just one person's perspective. It doesn't mean that's what you were, but that's how I was introduced to you, right? In that sense. It's like people still to this day are like, oh yeah, Steve has a video company. Like he's a videographer. It's like, I'm not a videographer. I don't know how to, I can hold the camera but it wouldn't be as good as if Sal's doing it. He's touching the camera right now. Like he's managing all 3 cameras, popped up all this lighting. Like, sure, I can do that stuff, but that's not the best use of my time. The same way the best use of your time isn't becoming a graphic designer. So we talked about kind of like how you got to this point. How are you finding your customers now? Like you're saying you're sending something up for a trade show in Boston, and you're
that's
getting
exactly
like 3
what I was
holes,
thinking. It's like how
and they're branding it. So like, how are these people finding you, or how are you finding them? What's that connection?
Yeah. So we don't spend a ton on advertising. I would say the most of our advertising budget is my content creator salary. Like that's the most of it. And that's all we really do is we just push out mass
Which you're
content.
doing incredibly well, by the way.
Thank you.
Like personally and for the business, because I know you're really pushing the personal brand now as well, which we'll get into later.
Yeah. So that's like, I never really spent money on Google. I think I started spending like $500 the week or the month before the pandemic. And then I was like, all right, I'm pulling from this because no one can have events right now. So no one's searching for events. So I put more money into Facebook advertising at that time because I was like, everyone is stuck at home for 2 weeks. I know they are going to be on
For 2
Facebook.
weeks.
So
Yeah, for
all
2
I
weeks.
want is
Yeah.
brand awareness for
Yep.
2 weeks of them seeing our name in front of them, so that after this 2 weeks, because that was the mindset at that time, after this 2 weeks, week 3, they'll all start searching again, and then we'll be back to normal.
Dun,
So
dun,
so that was kind of, my focus at that time. Then we pulled out of it completely, and we just stopped paying for marketing, and it was just social media posts through the entire pandemic. After that, we did a little more social media, Facebook and Instagram and stuff. But I really don't pay for marketing or advertising. There's no like secret there besides we put out a lot of content. We just share what we do, that we're always doing something. And I guess secret or no secret, when we're not doing anything, we're still putting out content as if we're doing something.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, we're on weekends that we don't have jobs, we're still posting events and things that have happened in the past, like,
Of course.
People's
And so-
perception is their reality.
Right.
You're always busy. Oh crap, this guy's
Right.
He's
Well,
doing.
that's I get that all the time on the personal side. They're like, dude, when do you sleep? Like, whatever. I'm like, I get
8 hours a
10
night.
hours, 8 to 10 hours a
He gets
night.
10
No
hours.
joke.
I love it.
I mean, I am very, honestly, I'm very strict with like 9 to 5, 9 to 5:30 for like myself at the office. Don't get me wrong. I go home if my phone buzzes or someone calls or an email comes in and I feel I need to answer it, I will. But, I am very like set with that, because I want business time, I want family time, and I want to sleep. Like it's good. Like you need it. You're gonna burn yourself out, But people are always like, you're nonstop. Like you're always moving. Like someone's like, oh, you were just in Phoenix yesterday. I'm like, no, I was in Phoenix like 3 weeks ago. I just happened to post another picture the other day. Like, but it's crazy to that point of like how people's perception, is on you personally, but also your brand. So that's why I've like made my personal social media so much like about the brand too, because it does tie directly to my company. Like when people hear my name, I think they think Redmax.
Yeah.
So why not make my personal brand the way I want Redmax to be perceived too, which is that we're always doing something. Yeah.
And I mean, the way you're putting it out there, you're showing, like, you're doing these weekly vlog style recaps of like, all right, this is how the week was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like, I think that's incredibly cool, because it's showing that, one, you're working, and then it's showing like what it's like to work with you and the stuff that you're doing. Like, you answered a phone call on one of them, or you were just answering emails, and it's like, oh, this is like, it's not all glamorous and amazing. Right. It's like, oh, Brandon's just, he's doing the damn thing.
Right.
Like, he's got it figured out, or is figuring it out and working towards it. And like that, I think, is what's going to help propel business in the future as you grow your personal brand. It's like, no matter what you do, like you said, you could pivot tomorrow, you could get your staff trained on other things and working in a different direction. People are still going to want to work with you because of that mindset. That's super important.
So is it the social aspect that when you're content creating, or is it also word of mouth? How does that drive the business and bring new customers and clients?
We get 90% from Google, from people searching. I did spend a lot of time on my website, between me and my team initially, designing it and getting content up there, and like back end SEO, but we don't pay for it. We just set it up in the backside of the website, so that when people do search for specific things, we come up and we're kind of top of the Google list.
What are those things that people are searching that's landing them at you?
Mini golf is by far number one, because if you search mini golf, we're the only ones on the East Coast that rent a course of this scale. There are some other ones that are plywood and turf and like novelty for a backyard, which is perfect, because ours, quite honestly, just is not for that.
You got to send me pictures so
for
I
us
can
to
pop
send
it
it
in right here.
Yeah.
So we could drop some holes here.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's a cool course. It's a full size like mini golf course. These holes are like 20 feet, 24 feet long, like fun shapes and stuff. So
It's legit.
we pop them together and we could fully brand them. So like we'll have companies like American Express Googling for a mini golf activation, and we did it for them at Gurney's in Montauk.
Nice.
Like 2 years ago, and then we just did an American Express one in the city at Hudson Yards as well, where we fully brand the course for them. But they landed on our website for that, and then they ended up using us for back of house rentals, for printing, for everything else, because once we can get them to our site and on a phone call or an email, then we can explain everything else we do. So I don't need to spend a ton of money on marketing and advertising that we do everything else. I just need to get them in for these few key things that I know they're going to be searching for, and then we can handle the rest from there.
Now, are you finding that those people are sticking with you? Like you said, you did one event 2 years ago at Gurney's. Now they're coming back to you for Hudson Yards.
So it's interesting because that particular one was actually booked. We were booked with 2 different agencies for those 2 different events that were brought on to handle the larger scope of the work. But it came up in conversation after that we had already worked with American Express, because their American Express still has their design team that is creating, the actual artwork and stuff for us. So it was kind of like a sigh of relief that like, oh, we already worked with them. We know this vendor. We don't have to like watch over every step of it like we might have with a new vendor to make sure that their brand is not getting altered or changed in any way. But there are certain ones too that, yeah, like they stick with us. They'll call us back for things year after year or for different activations. And now what's cool with these larger ones is they do stuff all over the United States. It's not just New York. So like Boston, Philly, we can go out west to LA, and a lot of them can be for the same clients and brands. But once they get someone that they like to work with and that they trust to, portray their brand and build an activation or an experience, like you said, that is worthwhile, they'll take you with them, across the US. And that's kind of,
and that's where you bring in those outside contractors that you develop relationships with to help you kind of
correct
execute.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool. So we talked a little bit briefly before coming on here. You were like, what's the deal with this podcast? Why am I coming on? What's happening? Is it worth my time? Probably not, but
I don't remember questioning any of that, to be honest.
No, but that's what's going through your head. And the question was, well, what are we going to talk about? Because you already made the decision to come on. And I asked you, like, what are some of your biggest challenges and what are the things that are happening right now in your business that are relevant? Because I knew we'd get to this point. We'd get the, like, all right, how you started, what you're doing now, and where you're going is really what we're working on right now. So what your biggest challenge that you said to me is handling the scale, handling the fact that you're getting all these different clients. What's the bottleneck right now for you?
Definitely scaling very quickly. Like you said, it's a good problem. We're not.
Is it a people
mad
problem?
about it.
Is it a?
It's everything.
Okay.
It's everything from people to just everything. Yeah, inventory wise and internally too. So like the logistics of just operating and running our business when we're doing, say, 2 events a weekend versus 20 events a weekend is very different. And if that comes over the course of 5 years, that's very easy to learn and get everyone on the same page. But when that's dropped on you in a season's time, where like last June, I think we did like 40 something events in 30 days. Wow. And I mean, that's not doing events every day. That means we're doing probably like 5 or 8
on Saturdays
and Sundays and stuff. So when it's a lot to build and facilitate and figure out. And when you're scaling at that size with our industry, we've got trucks on the road. We've got people on the road. You're going to get flat tires. You're going to get accidents. You're going to get people calling out sick. You're going to get like all of that stuff that goes with just scaling.
You can't control,
you can't control. And so it's funny because you mentioned like the personal videos, and like that was my whole reason behind that too, is because I wanted to show people that like this is real. It's just real life. We're not like superhumans. We're not doing anything crazy. We're just, putting out fires as they come. I always say we're like firefighters, and it's just like we're putting out hypothetical fires of like, all right, this happened, but like it happened. We can't worry about yesterday. We can't worry about today. We can't change yesterday. We can't change today, but we can change tomorrow. So like, how can we look to better ourselves for tomorrow? So
what are some specific examples of that? Like we got a flat tire. Now we're throwing, we got a spare in the truck.
Yeah.
Every single truck. Like,
so one thing I learned very early on that I feel like a lot of businesses don't get a grasp on soon enough, and this is what puts a lot of businesses out, because I think I don't know what the statistic is. I don't know if you know, but it's like I think it's like 9 out of 10 small businesses like fail. It's like something crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know the exact statistic.
I think it's like in a certain like 3 years
within the first couple of years or whatever it might be.
If you make it to year 3, it's like we kind of did it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so I think there's a lot of things that can contribute to that, but I think the biggest one for most businesses, because usually it's like a bankruptcy thing, is cash flow and them running out of the resources to actually do it. And that could be contributed to scaling. Like you're scaling too quickly and you don't have the resources for it. So like it's one thing to go out and buy 3 trucks and hire 3 people and send 3 people on the road. But now when you run into a flat tire, an accident, someone's sick, and that happens across all 3 of them, and now you have to fix all 3 of those things in one given day and still execute these events, you got to be able to handle that. And like quite honestly, the one thing we've learned that fixes 90% of it is cash flow and money. If you have the money and the resources and the connections, and so like if we are, you know, we're on good terms with, I would think everyone in our industry. Like we try and stay very friendly. There's no competition for us. And I'm saying that in a very humble way of not that like we're better than everyone, but I say it in the way that like we look at everyone as like, how can we work together? How can we collaborate to both stay busy and both make money? It's not about, you know, we don't need to make 1,000. Why don't we make 500? You make 500. We have less stress and we both have less to worry about, kind of thing. So because of that, in an instance like that, say we get a flat tire or whatever, we have a few options. We could call another company, have them throw their stuff in a van and send it to the job directly. We could call another company, rent the equipment, send another one of our vehicles, or go rent a U-Haul around the corner, get it in there and whatever. But all of that takes money and time and resources, right? And so if my time is allocated on another project right then in that moment too, I need someone in my office who can execute that and handle that. I can't be calling a U-Haul rental place and
Picking
on the
it
phone
up.
with my guy and on the phone with a tow truck company to go repair that tire. I can't. That doesn't, you know, so being able to fix and problem solve and do things like that, I think is like the biggest plus to learn early on and train yourself to be able to do. But at the same time, you're going to constantly get these curveballs when you're scaling at a pace that's quicker than you have time to think about tomorrow. You know?
Is it really hard to say no to some jobs? Like, you know, how do you handle that part of it?
Yeah.
Because I know, like, as a business, someone comes to you, I want you to do this. How do you say no?
You want to do it. Yeah.
You know,
there was probably
That's a great question.
First 6 years of my career where like I wouldn't say no to anything.
Right.
I didn't care about sleep. I didn't care about any of that, you know? And so finally I got to the point where I was like, we need to say no a little bit so that we could focus on our quality and focus on the ones that we are, you know, saying yes to. And so that's kind of the point we're at now, where we do say no to a lot. It's not always a no, but sometimes it's like, hey, it's got to be this for it to be worth it for us to use our time and resources for. That's probably the biggest one we've done and implemented, is just like a minimum of like, we won't take anything less than a certain dollar amount now because it's just not worth it for us to tie up our time and resources. Like I'd almost rather we all be sitting in the office with no task at the moment, but to think about tomorrow and the next day. Yeah. And just kind of pre-plan. So
well, I think this goes back to our conversation where it's like you just said you don't like, you have a really good relationship in your industry. You can have this person come to you. Now you can pass business off to, you know, we were talking about Vinny and DJC and all those guys and say, hey, this might not be for me, but these guys can do this as well. And that's kind of how you really built a really great industry relationships. And now that you threw a great event for that people without throwing the event because they had a great experience with somebody else. It's just,
and they'll always come to you,
even though you said no.
That information.
Well, we do,
and they trust you. Like once they have a good experience.
Like you're my go-to guy when it comes to anything production. Yeah. Always like you were talking about putting something into the stores. Do you know anyone who could potentially do an LED wall? I was like, let me call Brandon. Yeah. If you don't answer the phone, like it's okay if you're busy, you don't have to answer the phone. But he answered and he was like, oh yeah, let me. This is what it would be. It's probably too expensive. Probably not worth you doing. And they wound up mounting TVs, and it's great.
It's like that's the biggest thing for me. Even like the mini golf course, I'm friends with the guys that have the plywood, you know, greenery ones, whatever, and they could send them out, 2 guys in a van and drop it in someone's backyard and it's done in 30 minutes. Our mini golf course, a 9-hole course, takes us 3 hours to set up with like 4 to 5 people. Like it's a process, it's a whole thing. And so we get calls in the backyards and like we're like, hey, we'll send you a quote. Like we don't want to like disrespect you, and like we have no problem putting together a quote and sending it to you, but like in a polite way, this doesn't make sense for you to do, honestly. Like we wouldn't even want to take your money for this because it's just not worth it. So we'll refer them to the other guy, and then the other guy will get a call for a larger brand one for a company that wants something bigger and customized or whatever, and then it'll come back to us, you know, and they'll want that. Or like you said, we have these clients that we were doing events for schools and whatnot. We were doing 10, 12 events a year for them. And then they'll call us for one of those small ones that now we can't take. It's just not worth our time and resources. So we'll refer them to somebody else, and they'll still call us again next year for that same event. Yeah. not because they didn't like the job the other people did, just like you said, out of pure respect for us that, you know, they're going to call us first in case we want to take it or do it, you know?
Do you think 16-year-old Brandon would think you would ever be in the position to say no to when he was probably a yes guy to everything? Now he's...
No, I didn't think I did. And actually like 2 years ago, I think was like the first time I said no to a job, and I said it like publicly in my office, and everyone after I got off the call was they were like, did he just say that? And like it didn't even cross my mind, because I just like, I guess I was like mentally preparing for that moment for like a few weeks. And so, but they were all so like caught off guard by it. They're like, do you realize what you just did? And I'm like, no, what do you... They're like, you just said no to a job for like the first time, like flat out, like, no, we cannot take this on, you know?
It's one of my favorite things to do now.
To say no.
Yeah. But not like, no, go fuck yourself, no. But like, this is why we're not the right team to help you.
That's my favorite thing that I'm trying to also portray to our team now is like disqualifying ourselves from a particular job and conversation, but knowing where we sit and being able to refer to someone else and connect them with somebody else, or, you know, and not to take on something that we can't handle. But yeah, I think like for us to be able to say like, hey, listen, I don't think we're the best fit for you if this is exactly what you want. If you want to do this, this, and this, we might be able to help. But it's kind of like we're not salespeople. We don't. I don't have any sales team. We don't sell people. That's not what we do. We're not selling insurance. We're not selling solar panels. It's not. You come to us because you have a problem and you want us to solve it, or you have a vision that you want brought to life. And if we could do it, we'll do it. You know, but we're not going to try and sell you on something that's not for you. You know, it's just, that's not good for either of us. It's to make what, a quick buck?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've done it in the past, but like you have to go through that process of figuring out what's not the right thing for you to do, or what's not the right service for you to provide to someone. And like I've done those projects even recently. Like I literally wrapped up a project yesterday where I was like, I am never doing a project like that again, because I wasn't the best person to do it. I fucked it up. Like I really didn't deliver the best possible product at the end of the day. And like I could have just said no at the very beginning and not had this like 3-month headache, which was totally caused by myself. So it's just knowing where your lane is, and you're always going to run into those problems, but you know, it's just learning and adapting in
But Brandon's
time.
in 6 lanes, so you better catch up.
He's in 6. Yeah, I'm only in like 3 lanes now.
No, this has been awesome. Like,
Yeah. So,
I'm learning a lot myself, because I'm working with a lot of outside people now, and it's like learning how to know if they're the right person for you. So like hearing it from you, who's at a level where you're saying no to people finally after, like, I'm a yes man kind of right now. Like I just want to do
you guys say no a lot. Like it's in your brand. It's like, no, we don't do wholesale. No, we don't do this.
I guess you're right. I don't know. I don't look at it from that perspective. But
no, you're not trying to distribute to Walmart. Like, you are
I get what you're
keeping
saying.
everything in your ecosystem.
Yeah. I'm learning how to say no, because I like to make everybody happy and say yes. So I'm learning personally how to say no. So that's interesting.
It's tough.
Yeah.
So Brandon, we're wrapping up, but just you know, how can people find you? How can people help you? Like, what's some challenge that people can help with right now? And you know, who would you like to work with? Let's do the first 2 first.
First would be find me. Just search my name. I think I'm the only Brandon Havrilla. So Instagram, Facebook, I have a YouTube channel. We're on TikTok. If you want to follow the company, it's Redmax Events, and that's the same thing everywhere. Redmax Products is the printing one, if you're looking for any printing. But yeah, that's it. I always recommend following the personal, just for the same reason we do the weekly videos and stuff too. It kind of ties to the company, but it encompasses all of our companies in one page.
It's a good follow.
So
it's a good follow.
But yeah, that's how you can find me.
Biggest challenge that people can help with, or something they can do for you?
We could use more people and staff. So if anything I said sounds interesting, everything from people to help us set up on the weekends, set up events, execute things, anyone who's creative and likes being in a creative environment, whether it's from the content standpoint, from the design standpoint, graphic design, or like architecture design of like creating these experiences and stuff, open to all that. We do a lot of fabrication. We need painters, we need builders, we need, you know, just about a little bit of everything, but it's different than like your contracting or like your sheetrock job where you're putting up sheetrock all day, every day. Like we might deal with that once a year, and then the other days you get to like do something in a fun, creative way. So I'd say honestly, a little bit of everyone. We're always looking to add different people from different backgrounds and such to our team. But that's I would say the biggest way people could help us right now.
Cool.
If they or anyone they know finds interest in what we do.
I'm interested.
Yeah.
If I had time, I'm
everything you do is really cool.
Yeah.
You do great work because I've experienced it like working with you in the past. And, I think you got the right mindset. You got to figure it out.
Thank you.
Just keep on pushing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then we got you a gift.
Nice. On camera this time.
Oh, remembered. Thank you.
We wanted to give you a gift.
Very cool.
For coming on our podcast, spending time with us, and
This is your
this is our very own brand. So
Yeah, it's salt.
we got you a little hat and
I
tea to
actually
go with.
just got a boat,
Woo!
so this is a very perfect gift.
There you
Perfect
go.
time
You
gift,
are ready to
too.
go. We got your fishing rod hat
That's it.
right here, and
You got an
that's
extra
your-
swivel on there if you need it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Perfect.
And there's your new long sleeve tee.
That's awesome. Very cool.
We got you an extra medium.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thanks, man.
That was awesome.
It's been a pleasure.
That was a lot of
Appreciate
fun.
it.